This video is sponsored today by the Esoteric Academy. If you're somebody who's been meaning to get in shape or longing to go to the gym or yoga studio or Pilates studios, but you frankly are intimidated by that, or maybe you just don't have the time to add another stop, another location to your already busy schedule, then the Esoteric Academy is perfect for you. The Esoteric Academy is an online mystery school where we have a library and multiple playlists full of different exercise videos, from fusion bar classes to yoga classes to walking classes to all strength and stretch classes, mobility classes, and all these exercises are brought to you by master teachers, including myself. You get to do this in the privacy of your own home at your own leisure. We have all different times. We have hour-long exercises, 30-minute exercises, 45-minute exercises. We've even started a playlist for children. With the Esoteric Academy, you also get one live exercise class a month with me, and you get to join the community of other people who are on this platform. Not only that, with these exercises, we also give you the spiritual information regarding physical exercise to hopefully give you more meaning and purpose to your body, so you start to see your body in a different way. If this is something that you're interested in, there is a link down in the description box below. You do get 7 days of a free trial to make sure that you like what we have to offer. If you want to just do, after the 7 days, if you want to just do the exercise portion of this mystery school, this academy, it's only $25 a month. You get all these exercise videos for $25 a month only. And of course, if you would like to participate in the courses on top of that, there is an extra tier for that. But if the exercise is all you're interested in, and that's all you want is something that you can do in the comfort of your own home without having to go to a gym or a yoga studio, then the $25 a month will be sufficient for you. Hope to see you over on the Academy. We would love to have you. Now let's get on with the show. Laura Knight's Cassiopeian experiments, often associated with the Cassiopeia material, involves the exploration of consciousness, spirituality, and the nature of reality. Through various methodologies, including channeling and psychic experiments, Knight and her collaborators sought to communicate with higher intelligences, particularly a group of entities referred to as the Cassiopeians. The primary aim was to gain insight into the metaphysical questions, the nature of existence, and human development. The experiments included multi-session discussions that covered topics like multidimensional realities, free will, and the influence of higher dimensional beings on humanity. Knight recorded these sessions, which often contained profound philosophical and esoteric insights, and these records became part of a larger body of work that aimed to explore consciousness beyond conventional scientific understanding. The overall tone of the experiments reflect a blend of skepticism and deep inquiry into the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. Laura Knight began her communication with the Cassiopeians in 1994. She is still in communication with the Cassiopeians to this day. If you would like a better understanding of the Cassiopeians and their impact on humanity, I would highly suggest checking out the Wave series by Laura Knight, the Cassiopeian Forum, which a link will be provided in the description box below, or purchasing the book that I personally am reading from that contains all of the transcripts and conversations between Laura and the Cassiopeians. The Cassiopeians base the soul's evolution and consciousness on the spiritual template known as the Law of One. The Law of One is also known as the raw material. It is a series of philosophical texts that emerged from a series of channeling sessions conducted by Carla Rucker, Don Elkins, and Jim McCarthy in the early 1980s. The sessions involved channeling a consciousness known as Ra. who claim to be a collective of extraterrestrial beings from the sixth density. The key concepts in the Law of One are unity and oneness. The central tenet of the Law of One is that all beings are fundamentally interconnected and are expressions of the same universal consciousness. The phrase, "we are all one," encapsulates this idea, emphasizing that unity is the essence of existence. It also covers the densities of existence. The material describes the cosmos as composed of multiple densities or levels of existence. Each density represents a stage of spiritual evolution, with humans currently experiencing a third density, which is characterized by lessons in love, understanding, and most importantly, making choices. We also seek to understand in the Law of One soul evolution. According to Ra, souls undergo a process of evolution through these densities, learning and growing through various incarnations. The choice between these paths influences one's spiritual evolution and the experiences one encounters in life. There's also discussions of the role of free will. Free will is considered sacred, and individuals are encouraged to explore and make choices regarding their spiritual development without interference from higher beings. If you would like more information on the Law of One, please make sure to check out the material for yourself. A link to all resources will be posted down in the description box below. But for now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. We are kicking off this week. We're getting close to Easter. And so for our Cassiopeian readings, I've been Googling in the forum, putting in the search bar some words associated with what Easter is today. And of course, what Easter is today is a Christian holiday. I would beg the Christians to really consider, is this a Christian holiday? I mean, it doesn't matter to me. It's Ishtar. That's what this is, Tammuz and Ishtar. And so we covered that on my channel before in the past. But nonetheless, I Googled some words associated with the biggest religion in the world, which is coming up to a celebration of some guy that apparently resurrected, which we now know is not true. I've known that because I learned that reading the missing books in the Bible, that the real guy was never crucified or cannibalized, we'll say. So, but nonetheless, we're going to be looking today at 1994 again, back to the 5th of October, 1994. Now, some of this is going to be a repeat, but the reason why we see a lot, sorry, you guys, I'm trying to pull it up and my computer's being funny. We're still in Mercury retrograde while I'm filming this. It's not the date that this is releasing. I'm pre-filming this because I'm traveling. And so you guys know Mercury retrograde is just going to Mercury, and it's going to mess with our communication devices. But nonetheless, here we are. We're back at the 5th of October, 1994. Now, again, some of this is going to be a repeat. In the beginning, they do that a lot. Because obviously, I mean, Laura is trying to figure out if this is the beginning, right? Like, who are these Cassiopeians? And especially since one of the things that I love about the Cassiopeians is that they don't tell us things we want to hear. They don't care if the truth hurts our feelings. They're not going to like change the truth to make us feel better or lie to us about what's really going on. And I think for Frank and Laura, this triggers them some, and I know it triggers us too. I've gotten some people triggered in the comment section because of the things that the Cassiopeians are saying. But that to me like speaks volumes that the Cassiopeians are here for our highest good, because they're not trying to rewrite history or change the narrative just to blow smoke up our ass. I mean, they're very quick to tell people that when they're being delusional and when what's happening to them isn't something necessarily spiritual, but literally something that just is. Like, you know, that one person asked about a noise they heard outside of their house, thinking it was some like UFO experience, and the seeds were like, it was thunder. You know, and so that's what but I think for them, they get kind of triggered because we're used to channeling, and we're used to channeling false spirits that are going to blow smoke up our ass and tell us we're like the next best thing since sliced bread. And, you know, and that's not what the seeds are here to do. They love us and they say we're all special, but they're not going to like turn this into something that it's not. They're not going to manipulate us. But because we're in the beginning, again, Frank and Laura will re-ask, like double up on questions sometimes just to make sure they're still getting the same answer from the seeds, to make sure it's still a good source. So Again, some of these questions are going to be repeated from other readings. Some of these questions from other readings, we're going to get more details on, like Jesus's love life. So scandalous, right? So here we go. October 5th, 1994, Frank and Laura. Hello. Are you good to do it this way without the ritual? What ritual do you want us to do? None. Does ritual enhance or prevent communication? Constricts. What's your name? Dinara. Where are you from? Cassiopeia. Why is it every time we communicate with you Cassiopeians, we get a different person? Energy disbursement. Who is the energy dispersed to? The next in order. Does that mean that you utilize our energy to disperse? No, we disperse. So they're positive. They're not taking energy from Laura or Frank to talk. They're dispersing their own energy through Laura and Frank through the board to talk. We have a series of questions we want to ask you. Go ahead. Assuming there is a fleet of spacecraft riding a wave and approaching from the vicinity of the Zeta Reticuli, I always have a hard time saying this, guys. That basically, I believe, is what we now know. If you go back and listen to the interview that Todd did over on the Esoteric Academy for our first episode with deeper looking at this stuff, he talks about that he believes is what they mean to be like the, God, now my mind's gone completely blank. Speaking of Mercury retrograde, the firmament was this, the Zeta Reticuli. What does it mean to say that the space-time warp is indefinite in terms of arrival? Why this? Please specify. Mass affects electromagnetic transfer within gravity wave. In other words, if there is a large mass you are trying to transfer, is the problem partly because the mass itself spreads out over such a large area of space-time and must be transferred in stages or something along that line? Close. Can you help us out anymore? Mass affects time cycle. Small equals short cycle, large or dense equals long cycle. And this might, guys, I know I'm not the only one who feels this because I've been on the YouTube now for 5 years and I've heard from you guys. And I've also just in my regular life with people that don't even know I have a YouTube channel. Believe it or not, there are people out there that don't even know I have a YouTube. A lot of my students don't even know I have a YouTube channel. But this speaks volumes to me because, again, this was like, what, 1994? Since like 2020, it has really felt like time has been speeding up. And at first, it's kind of like, you know, when you're like a kid, it takes forever to get to like your birthday or to get to summer vacation or to get to Christmas. It just, time drags on forever. And then as around 2020, which I was in my late 30s, so I'd been in adulthood for a while, time just started to like speed up. Like all of a sudden the days seemed to go by faster. You know, I'd be working and all of a sudden it would be lunchtime and it's just like, and you know, that partially could be our perspective of everything going on in the world. There's just so much going on in the world that it just seems to move faster. However, I've heard from you guys and from people in my life that everybody's kind of noticing that things are just rapidly speeding up. And I wonder now if this has a lot to do with the wave that's coming. Because we're at the end of this third density cycle, or planet Earth itself is at the end of this third density cycle. So for all these thousands, what is it, like 75,000 years you're in this third density or something like that? Don't quote me on that. You'll have to go back and read the Law of One. I'm not 100% sure of the actual time frame of how long, but it's thousands of years, you know, that we were in this longer density. So it's a longer cycle. But as we're getting towards the end, where we're about to pop into fourth density, are we now in a shorter cycle? So that's why time does not feel the same as it did 10, 20 years ago. If that makes sense, let me know your thoughts about that down in the comment section below, because this is really fascinating to me because, you know, we've created time, right? Like the time we're in now on planet Earth, this time space or space time is different than other densities. So like, we see linear, we see time as linear, but it's actually reciprocal, but in our density it is linear. And so I don't know, you know, again, this could just be all of us having like mass psychosis, I don't know. But the Native Americans also spoke about this time being the quickening, that time would quicken. So I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that, because it just does seem like things are flying by right now. And maybe that's why, like, I'm an elder millennial, Zennial. I was born in 1983, and we see all over the social medias, right? Like, everybody's talking about how millennials are not aging. the same way that prior generations have before us. In fact, people are like, God, millennials are in their 40s now, and they're looking younger than some zennials who are in their 20s, like are some Gen Z in their 20s. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's been out there for a while, that millennials just are not aging at all. And part of me wonders if it's because for a millennial like myself, we're this generation that kind of got hooked into like the beginning of this speeding up cycle. So is it that millennials aren't aging because time is speeding up? So our bodies are not, because time is speeding up, our bodies are not writing the length of time as like generations before. Does that make sense? Like what the Golden Girl, like I'm 42. The Golden Girls, they were like in their 40s. That's crazy to me because I still feel like a young spring chicken. Like I don't feel like I look like Rue McClanahan and Betty White, right? Like I feel like a young spring chicken. They're women in their 40s having babies still. I still get my period. I have no symptoms of like perimenopause or menopause. I am regular with my period. So I just don't know again if it's that time is sped up and our bodies haven't sped up with the time. So that's why we're getting technically older, but our bodies aren't because the time is, I don't know. You guys, I hope you know what I'm saying. I might be talking wackadoo right now, but I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section on that. All right. We would also like to have more information on Earth changes. Is the Japanese earthquake that just happened, as you predicted last week, the last of the Japanese problem? An entire session had been lost due to tape malfunctions. It's consisted of part of prediction of an almost immediate Japanese earthquake, which did occur exactly as predicted. No. Can you give us more on that? There will be activity about 8.9, 67 miles off of Osaka coast, 9.7 central Tokyo. All of these are going to happen within this year. No, within 16 years. I would like more details about the man you say is the biological father of Jesus. Once again, what was his name? Tonitha, which again, this is a repeat. So they're just checking to make sure this is the same person. You said he was an acquaintance of Mary's. Yes. Was he selected for some reason to be the biological father of Jesus by other beings or powers? Close. Can you give us any details about him? What was his lineage? Where did he come from? Etc. He was a member of the White Sect. What is the White Sect? AKA Arians and Darians. We didn't know who were the Andarians, though it did come up again in a later session. Was Mary a member of the Essene group? Yes. Was this man also a member of the Essenes? No. This person, Tonitha, was chosen to be the biological father of Jesus. Yes. Note the answer here is yes, while the previous similar question that was qualified by other beings or powers was close. So this again is what you have to look for with the Cassiopeian. So the question was he chosen to be the biological father of Jesus? Yes. The other question, let's see. Was he selected for some reason to be the biological of Jesus by other beings? Close. That's not the same question that's asked here. So I've said this over and over and over again. You have to be careful with what the questions you ask. This person, Tonitha, was chosen. So he was chosen, but the other question asked, was he chosen by higher being powers? And they said close. Now they're saying yes. So there's a difference in this question. So he was chosen, but who chose him? Who chose him? He was chosen, but who? As of here, selected by other beings or powers, close. Could it be that in this question, she was trying to see if like a higher divinity was picking this man to be the father, the biological father of Jesus? And they're saying close. But then here they're saying, so he was selected, chosen? Yes. Do you guys catch the difference here? So what if they're saying that it was Mary or whoever, Amamari, that chose him, or her higher power that chose him? So when you're saying other beings are saying close because maybe it's an etherical higher power, but it's Mary's higher power who chose him, not something outside of Mary herself. Does that make sense? Yeah. Or Jesus himself that chose him, or a karmic contract that chose him. So you have to be very careful with how you ask these questions, because the answer depends on the way the question is asked. Because to me, these are two different questions. Laura might be inferring here that they're the same question. Maybe in her mind they are. Maybe her intention they were the same question, but they were worded differently. And as an outsider looking in, I see those as two very different questions. So my initial understanding was she was saying, was there a divine being that put Mary and Tonitha together to create Jesus? They said close. And then she said, well, was he chosen? Yeah, he was chosen close to a divine being. So what is that? Was it Mary's higher self? That's the next question that I would ask if I was on the board. Okay, so we can infer that he was chosen to be the father of the biological father of Jesus, and it was close to something divine, some being divine etherical. So then I would ask, if I were there, was it Mary's higher self? Was it Jesus's higher self? Was it Tonitha's higher self? Was it all three of their higher selves coming together to choose this acquaintanceship, this boom boom time? Because that was the karmic duty of the biological responses the DNA needed to house the soul of Jesus. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying, because I see those as two very different questions. But again, remember, guys, this is the very beginning of this relationship with Laura and the Seas. And as we've talked about in many of our past episodes, Laura was coming from a very Christian background. And so for her, this was difficult for her to like shed the indoctrination that she had received from the church. And now she's fine. In fact, she's written this book right here, that is a huge book, basically going through all the receipts of why the church is wrong, right? So, but this is in the very beginning. Why did Mary not marry him? Feelings were extremely transient. We all been there. We all been there. Are you saying she was fickle? No, influenced by telepathic suggestions. Was she already betrothed at this time? No, hypnotized level 1. This term level 1 comes up over and over again throughout the text when a predestined mission is being discussed. So we might assume that hypnotized level 1 refers to behavior that is simply driven from the inner self, which perhaps no conscious understanding of why one is being driven. The higher selves, again. So, and I can definitely, there are things I can look back at my own life. You can probably do the same with yours. You're like, why the fuck did I do that? But then I did that. So now this is where I am, and I'm glad I'm here now, because obviously by doing that, it was a domino effect that ricocheted me into this over here, and I want to be here, but I don't know why I did that to begin with. That was so unlike me. Level 1 hypnotized. That was a soul contract. Now, this is what's interesting to me. And so this challenges my own research, which is fine. I'm totally fine to have my research challenged. Did Mary and Joseph, once together, subsequently have other children? No, but Jesus did. Jesus had children. Who was he married to? Was not. So he was not married, but he did have children. You mean he had illegitimate children? Subjective institutionally. I love this, because that is showing the indoctrination of the demonic church, right? Where, this is what the hypocrisy is unbelievable. And the fact that a lot of Christians can't even see their own hypocrisy, to me, is wild. So, you have, and I get it. Like, they're like, all lives matter. We need to like protect the unborn. It doesn't matter if they're illegitimate, but then you talk about Jesus possibly having illegitimate children or being illegitimate himself. They freak the fuck out. This is institutionally, guys. No human life is illegitimate. That is the institutions that have forced you into a government marriage. So I personally believe that you can be married to somebody without being legally married to somebody. I'm not legally married, but I am married. Not legally, but spiritually, yes. And that's what matters, right? That's what matters. I don't need the cabal, the Illuminati being involved in my relationship. Like, I don't need that. But you see how indoctrinated Christians are? You can't be in line with God unless you have the Illuminati, the third person in your marriage, the government coming in your marriage. That's stupid. That's stupid. The priest who marries you is part of the Saturnalian fraternity. That's why they wear black robes. Duh. Wake up. No child is illegitimate. If I had a child, if I got pregnant, even though my partner and I are not married, that child would not be illegitimate because that child has two parents who love each other and would love that child and would parent that child together as a family. Just because the government isn't involved in that does not make it us any less than a family. All right. Who was the mother of these children? There were 3 women. And who were these women? And there were 3 women? Yes. Are they mentioned in the Bible? One is, but not by name. Who was one of them? Elisha. What was the name of the second one? Raphia. And the third? Vela, Romans. All 3 of them were Romans. Yes. So no mention of Magdalene. So that's interesting to me. So Magdalene might actually even be a name that was created later on. I don't know, right? Like, this is what's interesting to me. But I'm open-minded. I'm not attached to my research being the absolute truth at all, you know? Okay. All 3 of them were Romans? Yes. And what happened to the children? Survive, multiplied fruitfully. How many children were there from these 3 mothers? 3. Is that some people claim the true meaning of the search of the Holy Grail, that this is not a cup, but the Sag Grail or the Holy Bloodline? Yes. Are there any descendants of Jesus living today? 364,142. That's a lot of cousins. That is a lot of cousins. Sorry, guys, if you hear some noise, they're doing yard work outside. I apologize. Was Jesus christened in the sense of having some special mantle of power falling over him at the time of his baptism? Nearly correct. I don't think when they say nearly correct, Jesus, they're being loud. My thought over this, they say nearly correct, is that it wasn't a baptism. I've done so much research into baptisms and they're not good. From my research, baptisms, God, I'm sorry, guys, they're so out there. From my research, baptisms, you're dressing your child in white, you're getting oil and water put over you. That is literally you giving your child to Satan, basically, in a baptism. Now, I know Laura doesn't know that right now, and so they're saying nearly correct. Like, they understand her intention behind the question is like what we were programmed to believe a baptism was. So they're saying nearly correct. Like, there had to have been a moment where a prativa moment, as we say in Sanskrit, a flash of illumination, but it wasn't actually a baptism. So they're saying nearly correct. Like, your intention is right, but your terminology is wrong. Is Ghana a relatively safe place in terms of Earth crustal movements, Earth changes, etc.? What is? Earth includes all planet surfaces. Are there any places that are going to be safer than others? Changeable. Is the North Carolina Blue Ridge Mountain area relatively safe? What did I just tell you? Depends on vibrational frequency of changes. No specific Earth changes are accurately predicted until near event. This is an important clue that suggests that by changing the vibrational frequency of either ourselves or our planet or both, that cataclysms can be mitigated. Question. Ask what happened to those people that just were unalived in Switzerland that were talked about on the news. Were they unalived by someone else? As we were conducting the session, my ex-husband was watching the 11 o'clock news, and the story about the Solar Temple cult unalivings was aired. He came in to ask the Cassiopeians what was really behind it, since the story was just breaking and there were no details. I'm actually going to look into this myself. Actually, let's just quickly do that now. Why not? Let's see here. Okay. I mean, as I always say, I typically don't use Wikipedia, but for these purposes, I think Wikipedia is okay because it just gives us an overall understanding. The Order of the Solar Temple, or simply Solar Temple, was a new religious movement and secret society often described as a cult, notorious for the mass unalivings of many of its members and several mass unalivings and personal unalivings to the 1990s. The OTS was a Neo-Templar order claiming to be a continuation of the Knights Templar and incorporated an eccentric range of beliefs with aspects of Rosicrucianism. There's some readings about them that we're going to get into later on, guys, for the Cassiopeians. If you guys would like me to do a deep dive into this group, apart from the Cassiopeians, let me know. Let me know, because this seems really fascinating to me. I like studying the weird stuff. The weird stuff to me is the most intriguing. Pact, agreement, covenant. They all made a pact to commit unaliving together, yes. How many were there? 48, religious zealousy. Did the United States government deliberately unalive the Branch Davidians at Waco? Close. Led them to destroy themselves. How? Psychological warfare tactics. Did the U.S. government set their compound on fire? No. Who set the compound on fire? Branch Davidians drove them crazy. Now, I go back and forth. I know, human behavior is very complex. And even though they're saying that the United States government kind of pressured the Branch Davidians into destroying themselves, so you would think the U.S., I think two things can be true. Let's just put it that way. I think David Koresh, the head of the Branch Davidians, when all this happened in Waco, and the U.S., they're both at fault. Like, both of them are at fault, right? I don't think David Koresh was that great of a guy. Now, the people in the group, I think there were a lot of really good people. I've watched a lot of documentaries over the Branch Davidians. I think there were a lot of good people, good-hearted, good-intended people that were in this group. But David Koresh, I don't think he was good. I just... Either he was an organic portal or a service to self. I don't know. So I think that we've got two bad guys with innocent victims involved from both. And even in the United States government, even though the government, they're saying push them to destroy themselves, I think there were some good people in the government at that time that were trying. One bad apple is going to spoil the whole bunch, right? So I think this is the whole conversation about the Branch Davidians and Waco is a more nuanced conversation. But that's interesting that the government did push them to destroy themselves. Were elf or subliminals used? Yes, as well as other means. Did O.J. Simpson unalive his wife? Yes, I think we already know that. I mean, when was this? In 1994? I don't remember when the trial happened. I remember being a kid, and I didn't know who O.J. was, but I remember that trial was televised. So it's interesting. She says, well, that was a hit, but a lot of people are already thinking that OJ would beat the charges. He did beat the charges in criminal court. He ended up being found guilty in civil court and had to pay out a lot of money to the victims. All right. Did he take the murder clothes and weapon to Chicago and leave it there in a bag, as some people are saying? No. Where is it? LA dump, one of them. What gifts did the Magi prophets bring to Jesus as a baby? Gold, spices, and clothing. What other realm did the mothership come from that was cited by the Magi? Fifth density. And what was the purpose of the appearance of this mothership at the same time of the birth of Jesus? Too vague. Was it here for specific purposes relating to the birth of Jesus? To lead the prophets. What was this main purpose? Was that the main purpose? No. Also observation of events and encoding. Encoding of what? An infant. Was the encoding done physically or telepathically? Both. What realm or area did Jesus come from before he was born into the earth in the body of Jesus of Nazareth? Fifth density. He was a fifth density soul? Yes. And he had other incarnation in other human bodies on planet Earth? Yes. How many incarnations did he have before he achieved fifth density? 1009. Was he Melchizedek? Was Melchizedek an incarnation of Jesus? No. Was Joshua the right-hand man of Noah an incarnation of Jesus? Yes. Are there any Are there any other incarnations of Jesus that which we could be familiar if you were to name? Yes, Socrates. What was the spiritual relationship of Jesus to John the Baptist? A pact. What was the spiritual relationship of Jesus to Mary, his mother? A pact, a karmic pact, right? There was no other spiritual relationship in the sense of being combined souls. I had read where another channeled source suggested that Jesus, John the Baptist, and Jesus' mother Mary were all part of a single soul that was too immense to incarnate into a single individual. No, they're saying no, that's not correct. Were either Mary or John the Baptist fifth density souls? Both, so they were wanderers. Are there any fifth density souls on the earth today or any recent times we would recognize? Yes, Arafat, Sadat, and Pope John V. Do demons or evil spirits fear anything? Yes. Do they fear powers that we as humans possess? Yes, knowledge. They fear knowledge. Do they fear religious symbols, signs, or figures? No, I've been saying that, you guys. Are there any sign or symbol that can halt their activity? Sometimes. So it is curious that the Cassiopeans have said demons do not fear religious symbols, signs, or figures, but there may be some name, sign, or symbol that can halt their activity. A most interesting clue. Do they fear any power that we as humans possess? Yes, knowledge. Do they fear religious symbols, signs, or figures? No. Is there any name or sign or symbol that can halt their activity? Sometimes. It is curious that the Cassiopeans have said that demons do not fear religious symbols, signs, or figures, but that there may be some name, sign, or symbol that can halt their activity. A most interesting clue. Are they afraid of Christ? Yes, because of his knowledge. The mass of his knowledge raised his vibration. Knowledge is truly power. So what are they saying here, you guys? Again, this goes back to it. Laura is still referring to Jesus as the Christ because that's her programming. What we know is that we're all the Christ. We all have Christ consciousness. We just have to raise that Christ consciousness, which comes through what? Knowledge. So he was able to protect himself because of his knowledge. So how do we protect ourselves? We raise our Christ consciousness too. And before you say, but he was killed. No, he wasn't. He was not the real story. He was never crucified. That is the Mithra story. And again, to the people who are triggered by that, do not project your anger and your triggers out on me. I'm not the one that's lied to you. Do your research. Research Mithraism. Research it. You research Mithraism, you're going to be very shocked. It's cookie cutter of Christianity. Okay. Do pentagrams have any effect in slowing down or halting negative entities? Only if you think they do. Is the greatest power we have to resist demonic entities held at our free will or powers to say no? No. What is the greatest power? Knowledge. Does the accumulation of spiritual knowledge hold the key? Yes. Is there any other clue that you can give us? You do not need anything else but knowledge. Okay. So let's talk about saying no sometimes isn't going to work. Why is that? I've tried that. I've dealt with that. I've been spiritually attacked, physically attacked. Because you're still scared, there's still a weakness. But when you have knowledge, when you know I know who the coven is that attacks me. I know exactly who they are. And because I know who they are, I now work with people to gain knowledge, to know what they're actually doing. And so I learn what they're doing, so that helps me understand what to do to actually put boundaries up. Does that make sense? It's like, let's say you're driving a car and your car is coming to a cliff. You don't want the car to go over a cliff. So you start saying, no, no, no. But just saying no doesn't mean the car's not going to go over a cliff, right? You actually have to have the knowledge to hit the brakes or to pull the emergency brake, right? The knowledge helps you act on creating the boundaries of no consent. You said that Exodus occurred in 2676 BC. Is that correct? Close. Was that the last passage of the commentary Venus? Yes. Was this activity of Venus interactive with the close passing of a cluster of comets you have mentioned? Close. 1 of 3 cataclysms close together. If Venus was one of the cataclysms and the cluster of comets was another, what was the third? Mars. Was Mars knocked out of its orbit by Venus? Yes. And the two appear to do battle in the sky to the inhabitants of Earth, as described. Is that correct? Close. Now this cluster of comets, when was the last time it came into the solar system? 3,582 years ago? What is the cycle? 3,600 years. So when this cluster expected to hit the plane of ecliptical, so when is the cluster expected to hit the plane of ecliptical again? 12 to 18 years. Now, sometimes they're a little bit off with the years. Actually, they might not be off with the years because they always say, like, we don't really understand your time. So they're very transparent about that. Like, we can give you a guesstimation, but we don't really understand your time. Now, they're saying that, so we know a cataclysm is coming to push us into fourth density, but it really hasn't happened yet. Now, in future readings that we're going to see, they have told us that we were already supposed to have had this cataclysm. But because, and I blame this mostly on the truthers, because we've gotten so off on our understanding of things, there are so many people, like they only say 3% of the population is actually eligible now to go to fourth density. They're only 3%. So they're giving us extra time for more people to wake up. And I think they're really talking about the truthers, because 99% of the truther world is fake. 99% of what the truthers believe to be true is not. They've gotten caught up again. They've sold their soul to the cabal again by believing junk conspiracy. And so we're at a standstill. And so they have said in numerous future readings closer to our time now, this is 1994. So now in the 2000s, they talk about how our time is getting extended because they're trying to get more people to wake up. Not the normies. When we say wake up, the people that have sold their souls to harness their souls back, to give them the choice to come forward. But at some point, the time is going to be up. And that's very sad that there were a lot of people here on planet Earth that were fourth density eligible and basically shot themselves in the foot because they decided to sell their souls to the truther community. But anyway, are the aliens traveling with this cluster of comets? No. What land did Noah live in? What continent? Atlantis. Where did the ark land after receding the waters? Egypt. Now, this is interesting because, again, I've said this before in the early readings, they had no clue that our geography is probably not what they tell us it is. So when they say Egypt, now people think his ark landed where? In Turkey? So they're saying no, Egypt. So again, where is Egypt? If you're new here, this might be a strange question you think I'm asking, but all the archaeological evidence, not just the woo evidence, but the archaeological evidence points to Egypt being here in the southeast of the United States, not in Africa. Actually, Egypt in Africa has the least amount of pyramids than anywhere else in the world. Riddle me that, Batman. Egypt in Africa has the least amount of Egyptian artifacts than anywhere else in the world. So the Illuminati is laughing at us. Like, we're idiots if we really believe that the real ancient Egypt is in Africa. Like, we're idiots if we still think that. The evidence is out there. It's not in Africa. What caused Martek to pass close to Earth at the time, since that was the many thousands of years before the Venus interaction? Planetary alignment, gravitational aberration related to Venus. So there was a planetary lineup that caused Mars to be pulled out of his orbit? Yes. What was the event 100 or so years after the flood of Noah that was described as the confusing of the languages in the Tower of Babel? Spiritual confluence. What purpose did the individuals who came together to build the tower intend for said tower? Electromagnetic concentration of all gravity waves. And what did they intend to do with these concentrated waves? Mind altering of masses. What intention did they have in the altering of the mind of the masses? Spiritual unification of the masses. Who were the gods that looked down on the Tower of Babel at those who were building it with the intention of unification and decided to destroy their works. Lizards! Lizards! That makes sense to me. That absolutely, because we know everything is flipped. Everything in the Bible is flipped. The God of the Bible is Lucifer. Don't believe me? Read the Bible. It's in there. It's in there multiple times. It's up to you whether you choose to see it for yourself or not, or whether you choose to have cognitive dissonance. And if you're unwilling, I get people, but the Bible's the word of God. Who says? Who says the Bible is where's your factual evidence to prove that? What, because somebody told you that in church? That's called hearsay. That's somebody's opinion. Opinions are not facts. If the Bible is the word of God, then why the fuck do the Windsors have a copyright on the Bible? Riddle me that, Batman. Why? You can't copyright something unless you own it. So in the Bible, when God got mad and destroyed the Tower of Babel, that's not the actual God. That's the Luciferian God. Wake up, you sleepy little Christians. Wake up. Wake up. Okay, so the Lizzies blew up the Tower of Babel. What else did they do in the minds of mankind? Did they do something to cause literal disruptions of their understanding of language? Close. What tool do they use to accomplish this divisiveness? Brainwashing of masses. Well, there we go. Did they do this through implants and abduction? Partly. What is the true meaning, the original meaning of the Hebrew word Shem, purity? Why was this word related to the obelisk or standing stones, later called Shems by the Hebrews, symbolic of purity, unification, uniformity? Okay, so for all the freaking truthers out there that want all the obelisks to be destroyed, you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you have all the information? Are you just repeating and parroting what some talking head on YouTube told you to say? Just like the normies repeat what CNN says, you're doing the same thing. You're just regurgitating what someone on YouTube says. So why don't you, I did my own research into this a long time ago, so I agree with what the Cassie, because this is what I found in my research too, that the obelisks are actually good. We need them. I didn't take what other people were telling me as the word of God on YouTube for all, fucking hell. Like, if you believe everything you hear on the internet that I've got an oceanfront property that I want to sell you in Oklahoma. Did these stones themselves actually possess any power? Residual. What objects were the ancients going to place in the Tower of Babel? To crystal. Is Shem also synonymous with crystal? Close. Shem, the son of Noah, was the ancestor of the group that built the tower. Is that correct? Yes. All right, you guys, and this is just something that Sitchin wrote. I'm not going to really get into it because I feel like that just kind of regurgitates everything that we just said. And, again, I've already done my own research into this, so I would definitely really suggest if this is triggering you, I'm just the messenger. This is just the information. Knowledge is power. Knowledge protects. If this is triggering you, I would say go back, take a deep breath, sit with it for a moment, and then start doing objective research, not subjective. Not subjective research, objective research. Remember what Aristotle said. It's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. Go at this objectively. Take your emotions out of it. How were Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed and the other cities of the plain, and by whom? Nuclear EM pulse. Who else? The Lizzies? Yes. Why? To implant fear and obedience. So Sodom and Gomorrah, my friends, was destroyed by the Lizzies to implement fear and obedience. It worked, didn't it? How many times is Sodom and Gomorrah spoken about in churches for what God did? But don't forget, God loves you unconditionally, unless you do all these things and then, God's coming. That's not unconditional love. That's not unconditional love. And how fucked up is it, guys, that we send our kids to Sunday school and we talk about this unconditional God who loves everyone, but then brutally unalived his own son? Do we understand how much we fucked people's heads up with this? And so I really, 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 really hope that people start to objectively do their own research into this, objectively read the Bible without putting any emotion. If you read the Bible without any emotion, like take your own experiences, your own cultural indoctrination out of it, and just read the Bible and read it word for word and see it for what it really says, it is the most horrific book you will ever read. It is full of bad ideas, very satanic practices. But yet we vindicate it as the book of God, the word of God. It's not the word of God. It's the word of the Lizzies. Do we understand how fucked up this is? If I had a child, over my dead body, would that child go to a church? I'm not going to have some schmug, judgmental, nasty human sit there and tell my child these stories. Because in our house, God is love. In our house, unconditional love is unconditional love. There are no conditions. So I don't want my children to be walking around with fear and like they have to be obedient to another fucking human being that's being guided by the Lizzies. In my house, if I had children, they would learn to love and to be in alignment with God and to do the right thing because their gut told them to do the right thing. Because what is popular is not always right, and what is right is not always popular. And I'm talking about the church. The church is popular, but it's not right. It's not right. And speaking out against the sins of the church is not popular, but it's the right thing to do. Because this is so screwed up. So many people have lost their lives. So many people have had their lives ruined by this Bible that's instrumentally influenced by the Lizzies, by the demons. I mean, when King James wrote the King James Bible with the Freemasons, you can even look on the Freemasons website to this day. All the information's there. I did a deep dive. I'll tag that body below, that video below. But you guys, like, King James was a Satanist. When the King James Bible was originally released, there were pictures of Lucifer on every single page. If you are honoring the King James Bible, you are literally practicing Satanism. Literally. Not figuratively, not metaphorically, literally. Wake up. If you want to practice Satanism, fine. You have a right to. That's your free will choice. But you need to be honest about it. You need to be honest about it. And stop trying to control people. Stop trying to control women. Stop making women wear long dresses and cover their bodies. Stop it. Stop it. The evil can only exist when good men and good women do nothing. I'm doing something. The real God, the true God, is nothing but unconditional love. The true God is not representative in the Bible. That is Lucifer. Okay, I know I'm preaching to the choir. Weren't the Sodom and Gomorrahans really evil and bad doing sodomy and Gomorrah? Well, the word Sodom has been used to term the word sodomy, so why not Gomorrah? I have no idea what it might be, so the reader can use their imagination. That is a deception of history. They weren't doing anything bad in Sodom and Gomorrah. Did Lot's wife get turned into a pillar of salt? No. Is there any symbolism in that particular story for us today? No. Was the God who communicated with Abraham one of the Lizzies? Yes. Yes. Duh. Abraham was committing human sacrifice. Of course he was talking to the Lizzies. Abraham was heavily involved in human trafficking and smeshual carpooling, we'll say. I said it once. I'm not going to say it again. It's in the Bible, guys. It's in it. It's in the Bible. Abraham also worshipped multiple gods. Not one, multiple. Was the pact that Abraham made with the Lizzies? Yes, not directly. Was Melchizedek a priest of the Lizzies? No. Did Melchizedek give Abraham the true information? Close. Is the Kabbalah the true teachings of the good guys? Close. Is the Osirians Osiren cycle, the exemplification of the action of the Lizzies upon mankind in terms of the cutting up of Osiris's body as the breaking apart of the strands of DNA. Close. Was the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil that supposedly eaten by Eve and offer? What was the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil that was supposedly eaten by Eve and then offered to Adam? Knowledge, restriction, encoding. What did it mean when it said Eve ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge? What did she perform to do this? Consorted with the wrong side. What does consorted mean? Eve is symbolic. Symbolic of what? Female energy. The female energy did what it consorted? Lost some knowledge and power. Why was the eating of the fruit of this tree called knowledge of good and evil, feared by God or gods, to enable Eve to be equated with gods? What? Clarify. Yeah, clarify, please. I don't even understand that. Who was the God that feared that the eating of this fruit would make Eve equal to him or them? No. They were right. I had the trees confused. They're like, no, that's just not even a thing. The Bible says that these gods said that they were afraid that man would now take hold of the fruit of the tree of life and live forever. What does this mean? Why did the eating of this fruit make God afraid? It did not. What was the fruit of the tree of life? Limitation. How can the fruit of the tree of eternal life be limitation? Conceptually limited. I want you to know that this does not make a whole lot of sense. Yes, it does. Think carefully. Was the God who walked in the garden, who warned Adam and Eve not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, was that the original creator God, i.e. the good guy? No. Who was the God that ordered them not to eat of this tree? Complicated. Laura, you are missing the obvious. I get what she's missing. I hope you guys do too. In what sense would the fruit of this tree of life be limiting? Believing that one source contains all knowledge is contradicting reality. Boom. What was the flaming sword bearing re-entry to Eden? Do you not understand? I do not understand. Review. If the concept was the eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge provides all knowledge, then one is being deceived, because no one particular source can provide all knowledge. Therefore, when one believes in the deception, one has now trapped oneself within parameters. And furthermore, the human race will be poisoned by the very same which it reflected in several different ways. One is always seeking the truth through one pathway instead of seeking it through a myriad of pathways, and also believing in simplistic answers to very complex issues and questions. Again, we talked about that. They later on go explain this. It's called soul smashing. When you put all your faith in one source, that is soul smashing. That is selling your soul. When you believe a lie so much and you cling to it, it becomes your identity, like religions, like the truther community, like science sometimes, with people who cling to science. Then you have basically sold your soul. What was the flaming sword bearing re-entry into the Garden of Eden? Symbolizes trap, a self-imposed flaming sword. Yes. Where was Eden? Earth. The entire earth was Eden? Yes. Was the fall in Eden the loss of the Edenic state, also accompanied by a cataclysm? Yes. What was the nature of that cataclysm? Comets. The cluster you have mentioned before? Yes. And how long did this occur? 309,882 years ago. Was the loss of the Edenic state also accompanied by a takeover of mankind by the Lizzies? Yes. Who were the original creator gods? Us, sixth density. And they go by, they say not us, and another reason they say not us, but just sixth density. It's hard for us to comprehend that. They say, like, we still see them as like human beings just walking around doing whatever, you know, we do, but they're sixth density. So it's coming from the sixth density, basically. The Cassiopeians were the Pleiadians, also the original creator gods, same sixth density. So again, they go back this, and I think we've already done that reading where they say, no, we didn't actually create you individually. Like, you're thinking of us as having humanoid bodies like you, but we are a consciousness. So a consciousness that's created you. Note that the Cassiopeians do not claim to be the creator gods, but that is a function of the sixth density. What is the true identity of the serpent in Eden? Eden lizards. Who built the Great Pyramid? Atlanteans. What year was it built? 10,643 years ago. Why was it built? What purpose was it used for? Capture cosmic energy. And what was this cosmic energy used for once it was captured? Many things: power, transport, healing, mind control, climate, etc. Who built the Sphinx? Same. Was the Sphinx built at the same time? Yes. Why was the Sphinx built? What was its purpose? It was a temple. Are there records buried under the Sphinx? Yes. What happened to the Neanderthal man? Removed by Lizzie's to other planets. Is that removed, or is it taken off planet physically? Yes. What planet were they taken to? Others. Of the several places around this country that we have thought about moving, which one would we be happiest in? Indefinite. Would we be happy in the Blue Mountains in Oregon? Not determinable. Shouldn't you be able to give a prophetic insight? I was still stuck in the idea that truly valid sources would just give realms of prophecies that would come true. But as we shall see, any source that does so as a habit is doomed to failure because of probabilistic nature of reality. The future is not absolutely fixed, and therefore only probabilities can be. Yes, I say that all the time. That's what I love about that. They give probabilities, not prophecies. Only probabilities can be given, and then only just before the event. However, the cyclical nature of time does give us a field of probabilities, and we are learning gradually of what this field consists. Too many variables in this matter. End of session. All right, you guys, as you see, I put Pope in there as the search word just because I thought, ooh, let's see what comes. And there's a lot that comes with popes, guys. So we've got a whole lot more readings to look at regarding the popes, but that was the first one. And so we'll be getting into more information about the popes in future episodes. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will talk to you very soon.